Hello there, welcome to the Unbeatable Energy Djembe drumming channel. I am Steve Rivers and today I am going to look at the Flam technique when playing the djembe. I first became acquainted with the term Flam when I used to learn the snare drum when I was a teenager in sort of amateur classical percussion. But at least in the in the West, people learning the djembe, they'll refer to the same same term, and it is basically, it's pretty much the same technique. But what really fascinates me about the Flam in African drumming is the various kind of nuances and the grey area between whether it is a Flam or whether it's just sort of two fast beats. Okay, so I'm going to look at, the essential Flam, what are you really doing, look at some of those little nuances, and then I'm going to share you a really useful exercise, which I found really helped me when I was learning various kind of solo phrases, and also some of the things like a chaufferments, and where you've kind of trying to incorporate some kind of swing in some of the various rhythms. So this is not a beginner's video. It assumes that you've got some experience of tone and slap, and that you can quite smoothly incorporate tone and slap and bass within an accompaniment, at least a djembe, particular djembe accompaniment. Perhaps you've also got some experience of learning some solo phrases as well. Okay, so let's go straight into it and look at the Flam. So here is a Flam, like that. Okay, I'll do it again. Okay, and as you noticed when you saw me playing that, I'm practically lifting up both my hands together, but one of them is slightly higher than the other. And so the one which is obviously not quite so high, that's going to get to the drum first, and then the one which is higher is going to come down second. They are almost at the same time, but they're just not. There's just this tiny little difference between the two. So you could almost imagine they are like almost two very fast individual beats. But the only difference with this kind of Flam is that the one which is kind of closest to the drum and hits there first is slightly more passive sound, and obviously the one which is higher, because it's got a little bit more way to go, it's going to have a little bit more impact on there. So that you might refer as sort of almost the main beat, and it's got this little tiny little drag just before it. Okay, so that's what I'm going to call a kind of a basic, and let's call it a tight Flam. Okay. And if you want to let's do a few of them together, okay? And just to let you know, this video is facing me, so, just for clarity, because I know what I'm like, okay? This is my left hand, this is my right hand. You're probably far better at that than me, but I find the mirror image, it really does confuse me, okay? So, and what I'm going to do is the one that's going to hit first, that's not going to lift quite so high up. That is basically going to be my right hand, and the one that's coming down afterwards, which has a bit more kind of emphasis, is going to be the left. Okay, should we try that? Let's do 4 of them. Are you ready? So we'll go 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, and as you notice, that hand is really lifting up high, and that to be honest, I'm probably only just using my wrist really, aren't I? Let's do it again. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay? 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay? Now, this is quite important because it's going to be useful later on. We want to turn it around the opposite way. So this time, this kind of the passive one that's going to hit first, and it's barely only going to lift up, is going to be my left hand, and the right hand is going to be the one with a little bit more impact coming in second. Let's do 4 of them again. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, and just to let you know, I'm only doing tones at the minute. And we can look at some things with slap. That's kind of the exciting part again. Should we do slap? Let's do some slaps, okay? So if it was a slap, like like that, okay? Let's do it the other way. Like that, okay? So the important thing is that whichever way you're deciding to do it, if you're kind of having like the main beat is the left and the passive one on the right, just kind of get that so it's really, really clean, so that you're kind of really, really mindful of that kind of action, okay? So whatever your intention is, okay, if your intention is for the second beat, the main beat, to be the right, make sure that is what happens, okay? So if you want the left to be higher, okay, really make sure that's what's happening, okay? And you haven't got the left sort of, the right hand coming up higher there. Okay, so let's do it one more time. Okay, let's do tones. Like that. Let's go the other way. Like that, okay? So the next bit is to get really comfortable with being able to do it one way, but almost importantly to do it the other way as well. All right, so let's have a go at that. So I'm going to do it one way, and then I'm going to do it the opposite way. Are you watching? It doesn't matter which way you do it first, as long as you do it the opposite way around next time. Let's do a few of them. Let's go. Okay, how do you get on there? If you need a kind of, it's quite important for that, eventually later on with an exercise that I'm going to show you, is that this sort of alternating between your handing for these flams, you're able to get that kind of smooth, okay? So you could, for example, you could pause and just have a little practice of that so you get really comfortable with it. By all means, you can stay on here and I'll show you what we're going to look at next. So the next thing I want to tell you is that, I mean, what I'm doing there is, you would kind of apply that in some kind of technique in djembe playing, but very often there's a bit of a grey area with this flam. I'm going to call it quote flam because sometimes there's a grey area between it. Is it a flam or isn't it a flam in djembe drumming? And the reason why is that the flams in djembe drumming, depending on what you're doing, they can be quite loose. And what I mean by being loose is, these ones here, they're very tight together, aren't they? Okay, they're pretty much, they're sort of, really, I'm thinking about the space in between. They are kind of one beat and sort of tight. But very often the flams can be slightly sort of wider apart. The action's still the same in a way. I mean, the thing with this action with the flam is that we're kind of trying to think of it as sort of almost one movement, rather than it being sort of two separate movements with a movement with that hand and movement with that hand. As you know, with the flam, we're sort of getting almost like, let's call it two for the price of one, like that, yeah? Okay? Now, the fun bit is when sometimes the flam, the space in between the two beats just becomes a little bit wider apart. And actually, I do sort of struggle thinking about how I can explain how I'm sort of getting this for some people. But if I just show you again, I'm kind of lifting both my hands. Okay, so I'm only sort of showing you that because as you notice that, it almost is getting to the point where it's just simply becoming two fast beats, but there is still this kind of action where it's almost like one action. Maybe what it is the fact that the hand that's getting there first is maybe lifting just a little bit higher than it was. And you probably notice that in the process of it lifting a little bit higher, it's starting to have its own emphasis, almost equal with the other. So you haven't got one which is sounding really, really light and another one which is sort of heavier. They're almost becoming sort of equal, okay? Because there's sort of almost the difference between one and the other in terms of height, it's almost becoming negligible, okay? It's just that one's going to land there before the other. Okay? Right, so this is all about kind of getting you started on playing with this stuff. And also just to let you know, the thing with learning these sort of techniques is if you're going to practice it, find ways of incorporating it into your busy, complicated life. You don't have to be thinking about there having to be a djembe to practice this, okay? You have your legs, okay? Okay, forgive me, I've got some jingles on my feet here. And cozy house, so I've got the slipper socks on, but yeah, I've got some jingles there, so it's what you can hear. But look, sometimes I look out on the street before I go to bed, and I've got the windowsill in front of me, like this. I'll just do it on there. You don't really, it's really, really important to talk about this, because you see, these things are sort of showing you. If you want to sort of get them, you've got to play with them, and you've got to practice them a little bit, and so you have to improvise. Pardon the pun, yeah. So you've got to find like a windowsill, a table, or something. Yes, maybe you've got to be a little bit kinder to the people you might be getting on their nerves. But look, if you're on a bus, you've got your legs there. You can just sort of practice it there. You have to incorporate these things into your life. Anyway. Where was I going? I went off at a tangent there, didn't I? Let's go back to the flams again. And so let's do a few exercises. And let's think of it in a way where we do it, where we make it a little bit looser. All right? So that's one way, that's the other way, and the one way, and the other way, okay? So I suppose, that they're lifting up, one of them is lifting up higher, so it's almost meeting the other. And the other, and the other, and the other. Okay? What I'm not having to do is go like that, all right? That would just be a waste of energy. It's such a, what's so good about these is that these are like little techniques where you kind of realize that something which seemingly looks like it's involved so much effort. It's just like it involves very, very little effort. Right, so where are we going to go from here? I think it's time for me to show you this little technique. Now, I started messing around with this ages ago. I wasn't a very experienced djembe player at the time. I was really, really into djembe, and I was really, really practicing, but this was a time where actually there was very little information on the internet. This was before YouTube. It was before sort of streaming, really. This was sort of time if you're really into djembe, if you didn't live in Africa, you were limited in terms of you had to travel there. This was a time where I was trying to find anything I could get at that time was gold. But I also used to do a lot of kind of trying and playing and saying, what if I do this and what if I do that? And one day I thought, well, I could do a flam, and I did this. I went like that, okay? Just the example, that's just tones. But I thought, what if I do a flam, and I have the flam going one way, all right? So if I have let's say this hand's the passive one, this one's the kind of the one which is coming down second. And what about if the hand that hit there first, that sort of started the passive one, what about if I do a beat with that hand there, and then I reverse it, so I do the flam the other way round, okay? And then I put the single on the other way round, all right? And so assuming you've kind of got comfortable with alternating flams like this, okay? So that's alternating flams just there. So now what we're going to do, if you can alternate those flams, we're going to now be bringing in these little singles, okay? So I'm going to start with this. Passive hand hits there first. The second hand is on my left. Passive hand's on my right. And the right is then going to bring in a single afterwards, and then I'm going to switch the flam round so the passive hand will be on the left, second main beat will be on the right, and then the left will bring in that single, okay? And let's do 2 rounds, okay? So we get it really focused, just 2 rounds. So we go like this, and the other way, like that, okay? And let me kind of sew them up together. Okay, I can make the flam a little bit tighter because in some ways it's probably a little bit easier. Like that. All right, okay? And obviously one of them is going to feel slightly less natural than the other. That's part of the fun. That's part of the practice. Let's try it again. And then try it again. Can we do 4? Let's try 4. Let's try 4 again. And let's try it again. Okay, so as you're starting to see, I'm starting to kind of create this little bit of some momentum. It's turning into something we say sort of almost like some kind of loop in 3s. Let's try it again. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's try it again. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so what I want us to do, I want you to just take that and just practice those things. But this is where it starts to go. Like that. Okay? So in the minute, they're all just tones. And after a while, that kind of whole thing where the flams can get looser, you can sort of play with this. You could do tight ones. But you could also think of the flam being a little bit looser. Now, I actually think these are, in some ways, slightly harder because it just involves that slight different technique where they're you know, the sort of one which is close to the drums is lifting a little bit higher. Okay, and it just means that it kind of takes the space in between the two a little bit more. So you got this. You got like that. Okay. Now what I haven't done is I've just basically kind of kept these kind of neutral as best I can, but what we can do is we can start to incorporate the slap sounds in here, and this is the kind of the exciting bit, because I mean there is so many possibilities, and this little sort of exercise can then help you, particularly when you're looking at échauffements which might have a certain kind of swing. So what I think I'll do, let's take this one. How about if we do the flam, go straight into the flam straight away, and then so when you do the flam, the one that's going to hit the drum first, that's going to be a tone. The second one's going to be a slap, so it'll sound like this, like that. Okay, let's try it again, and let's do it the other way, and the other way. Okay, do it first way, and let's do it the other way. Okay, but what we're going to do now is we're going to add in the singles. Like that. Okay, let's try it again. Like that. Let's go really slow. Let's try it again. Okay, so what we start to get there is, you know, when you start to do an échauffement, you know, that sometimes, you know, you can have a swing which is really, you know, really tight. And what we mean by that is, you know, if we start to go 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, okay, between the 1 and the 2, it almost becomes 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, like that, okay? And so, you know, this little technique, it can really help, you know, like it's almost the because of the way it's swung, the sort of the first and the second beat, they almost become, they are becoming a flam. Like ones you could do as well, okay? There's other little sort of phrases where this same sort of ternary flam and then followed by a single and then alternating thing, okay? It can also lend it to other little phrases as well. So this time what we could do is we could start with a single and we'll make that single a slap, and then we're going to do a flam, and the flams are going to be tones, okay? So I'm going to start the single with my right hand, and then the flam is coming in afterwards, and obviously because I'm my right hand, because I am sort of pretty much alternating, the flam, the first beat of the flam is going to be on my left, and then the second is going to be on my right. But they're going to be a little bit more kind of equal in their movement, which means that the flam becomes a little bit looser. Like that. Okay, if I made it tighter, what would that be like? Okay, well now what I could do is even think for the momentum like that, okay? So, as it does become increasingly more advanced, and you also find as you start to sort of extend it and make it longer, sustaining it becomes more and more of a challenge. Believe me, I have completely crashed out badly when I've been doing a solo, and I've tried to have a go at keeping a really long extended kind of passage, a bit like what I'm doing there. Made an utter mess of it, okay? And actually, one of these things is also, it becomes a technical thing about thinking about the way your hands are placed. And sometimes if your hand's a little bit too far forward, it becomes heavier. And so sometimes with these things, particularly when you get the speed, it's maybe, finding alternative slight variations with you turning your slaps so that you're getting lighter, which might involve coming further back onto the drum. Okay, so that one again, we had. Let's go slower. Like that, all right? Now really, in your practice, once you actually start to get kind of, the smooth transition between the alternation, it's very much up to you in your practice how you want to play it. You can squash together the flams, you can prize them apart. And when you actually get to the specific rhythms you're doing, the work, the thing that you're going to be looking at is trying to sort of define how much swing there is and how much, how loose these kind of flams are going to be, okay? But in the minute, this is sort of playing on it, and it will later on become really helpful. So I suppose another one might be like this, where a little bit different. We're going to start with a tone, and it's going to go, we're going to start with a tone. We're going to make a single with a tone, and then we're going to make the flam, they're going to be two slaps afterwards. All right, so it'd be like this. See that, okay? Gugara, 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 gugara. Okay? And then you get them tighter, like that. And if you want to get them, or maybe looser, like that. Okay? Or another way. Okay? So that way, the flam's being moved to a different place, so that, now you actually have a like that, and then we've got a single after there with a slap. So as you can see, there are kind of lots of variations. And obviously I'm not getting specific and to saying, it's like this for some rhythm or that rhythm. It's just that this kind of little exercise, it is really, really useful. When I was in Abidjan, when I was being taught by Siddiqui Dembele, there was this particular phrase, and I saw that this little kind of original exercise was really, really helping me. So I hope you found this video useful, everybody. Please like and subscribe if you have enjoyed this video, share it with other people. Just to let you know, I am on a bit of a mission this year to get my channel up to the sort of the patron stage. I need to get 3,000 hours of viewing time annually on this channel so that I can get to the patron stage. When I get to the patron stage, I will be able to invest in some slightly better quality recording equipment, and I'll also be able to devote my time to creating exclusive videos for those that want to actually get to that sort of on the patron level and digging a little bit deeper into the wonderful world of djembe drumming. So if you can help me get there, I'd really appreciate it. I will look forward to seeing you again and sharing more things in the future. But for the moment, enjoy the stuff. Let me know how you get on with Flams, and I'll see you all next time.